Liz, notice any fashion statement going on here?
You've got some glasses on there.
I do. Do you know what kind of glasses they are?
I think they might be meta glasses,
They are, which have a new name in the industry, don't they?
like porn glasses or something. Pervert glasses. That's what they are.
I got you to say porn and pervert in the first 30 seconds of the episode. Whew! This is a win. All right. So,
And I'm
yes.
so excited my co-host has pervert glasses at his fingertips.
Last week, there was a naughty word in the podcast. I really hope we're not falling into the NC-17 bucket. But yes, those were meta glasses. I don't really wear them very much. I haven't found them to be super useful, but boy, for a while, they were like, no one was really saying anything. But the times have changed, haven't they? These things are persona non grata. So what's going on here? And I love this is the best hack for dealing with people getting recorded when they don't want to.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with them is that people are walking around with literally like a camera on their face, but it's very subtle. So if you don't really know, or you do know, but they're not like walking around with a camera in front of you, like I'm videotaping you. So it's very disconcerting to a lot of people. So people have dubbed them pervert glasses because of the privacy and non-consensual recording concerns. But there is this proposed hack, like you said.
I don't know if it's even proposed. I think people are actually doing it. I think Frozen and Hakuna Matata are playing everywhere on every street corner. So why? What's happening?
Because if Disney music, which is copyrighted, is playing in public and people record something in public and post it on social media, it'll get taken down because the copyrighted music is in the background. So that's a way to not get filmed without your consent. Just like keep walking around with Disney music playing all the time around you.
This is from Joe Foley on the Creative Block. I love the quote here. It says, because Disney music is more protected than women. So,
yeah.
Ouch.
Yikes.
Well, I would bust into song, as we know I love to do, but I don't want the podcast episode to get taken down for more than one reason already. So with that, I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is AIEDU, the show about leading and learning in the age of AI. In today's episode, Charlie Hughes 3.0. Besides our boss, Jonathan Costa, who was the progenitor of the podcast, she is our only three-peat. So she's back here to talk about all that she is doing as she enters her junior year at UConn. Liz, I am so excited.
Yes, you missed such a great day in the office. But first, here's the full show rundown. We'll kick off this week with a look at how a single prompt can trigger all 9 tools in Gemini Notebook Studio to streamline content creation.
Next, we're going to look at AIEDU's Fall 2026 Trailblazer Fellowship, a paid program designed to help K-12 teachers, and I think other folks as well, bring AI literacy into their schools.
From there, we'll have a look at Anthropic's rollout of invisible text watermarks to comply with new EU AI Act transparency rules across Claude models.
Then we have some high-ed mismatches. We're going to look at this really cool policy analysis tool developed by a huge friend of the pod, as well as a new development on oral exams, which seem to be durable, but we shall see.
And then we'll go beneath the surface with my interview with the incomparable Charlie Hughes. We're going to talk about her sophomore year of college, the incredible work she is doing to advance women's reproductive care using her passions of computer science and AI with biology, and she's pre-med now. It is going to blow your socks off.
And of course, we're going to end with a fantastic Bright Bite. Hey, this episode of AIEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing, cool organization at the intersection of AI, advanced manufacturing, and education and workforce development. You can learn more at nextgenmfg.org. And Liz, we want to mention that fall is right around the corner. We are still cherishing every moment of the summer, but we know that the Fall AI Conference at EdAdvance is coming up quick. This is sold out every single year. And so, Liz, tell us the deets. When, where, how, who?
Well, Matt, the conference is on Friday, October 2nd. It is at the Litchfield office, which is beautiful in October. And I think we've been promised good weather. Someone is working on that.
Okay.
And you and Jonathan always do a great keynote. We have breakout sessions. We serve you breakfast and lunch. And you can sign up by going to
skills21.org/AI. Click on events. And again, great time to register now because this thing has sold out pretty regularly. We'll be putting out our call for proposals pretty quickly. We know there are lots of great learning opportunities out there in Connecticut and beyond in the fall, but please come join us. And our folks from out of state, Come hang out in Litchfield in October. It is beautiful. We're talking
Ugh.
fall foliage and more.
Make it a weekend in the northwest corner and you will not be sorry.
There you go. Liz, I know that I've done a good job when I see in the episode links, which is a doc that we use to curate all the potential stories, I suddenly see a Google comment on a story saying, "Oh, I love this." I'm like, wow, I really hit it out of the park with this one. So, Liz, what do we got? We very often open up with these tools. This is Gemini Studio. No, Gemini Notebook. What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is pretty neat. So the title from this piece in Medium by Mihailo Zoin is called One Prompt Runs All 9 Gemini Notebook Studio Tools. So there is a workflow in Gemini Notebook that triggers all 9 of the Studio panel output tools using a single prompt in that middle chat panel. So the Studio tools are the things on the right, the audio overviews, the slide decks, the quizzes, all those things. So he used this prompt, and it is very simple. Run all 9 tools from the Studio panel so I get a comprehensive analysis of the source. Now, I have to say, it is cooler than just doing that because I tried it, he tried it, I tried it, and it actually doesn't just like automatically make 9 things. It's very tailored to like, I want to give you a comprehensive view of all of these things, but I'm not just going to repeat the same stuff. So the outline isn't going to have exactly the same stuff as the podcast as the same. So it really says like, I'm going to focus on this in this part, and I'm going to focus on this in this part. Where do you want me to start? And then like, what do you want me to do next? So it again does just this great like thinking. I know it's not actually thinking, but this great output of not just automatically doing the task, but making sure that it's tailored so that it really is useful. So again, that prompt is literally just run all 9 tools from the Studio panel.
One thing I thought was interesting, I was expecting all 9 assets to take like an hour to develop, and they have put more horsepower behind each individual notebook. But yeah, those cranked out pretty quickly, but I agree. I have to say, I'm not going to get his first name right. I appreciated the bravery which you approached that. I'm just calling him Mr. Zoin, but this guy is on Medium, and I've been reading a bunch of his stuff, and I think we're going to come back to him on a regular basis. He is so far really one of the best kind of like voices. He covers Claude code and writing and authorship and all sorts of stuff, but really lots of neat analysis of Gemini notebooks. We will come back there. So Liz, last week we mentioned AIEDU, and here they are again this week, and I think we teased it as well. So they have their Trailblazer Fellowship, which is a really cool paid program. We'll put the link into the show notes where you can apply. Applications are open until August 24th at 11:59 p.m.
Pacific time. So if you're on our coast, you get an extra 3 hours.
Oh, look at that. Nice. Yeah, so this is really neat. This is a paid professional learning program for K-12 educators looking to build capacity for AI literacy. I think that you can do this in lots of different roles. There's a just under $1,000 stipend, $875. You get training. You kind of join up with different stakeholder cohort groups. And so we've worked with some folks who have been past fellows and have found it enormously helpful. So we really encourage folks to take a look at that and participate.
Absolutely.
Good. Now, Liz, interesting story popping up here about Anthropic and watermarking. So they put in this like little secret digital signature. This came out yesterday or the day before. And I know like my feed has been hot and bothered about this. There's a lot of controversy. I was like, oh, cool. And apparently people are, have the strong feelings here. Now, what's funny to me about that is that OpenAI actually had the same exact technology and the ability to do the same exact thing. And we covered it on episode 28. Liz, I know you memorized all the episode titles. Do you recall what 28 was?
I do know. It was called Missing in Action, Why OpenAI Will Not Release Their AI Content Detection Tool.
My God, you read like no other co-host out there. Yes. Good thing I dropped it right into our doc. Yeah, so in the Beneath the Surface that week, whenever that was, episode 20, like it was 100 episodes ago, we talked about the fact that OpenAI has, because it's their algorithm that determines, exactly how their text gets the next word prediction works. So with like a 98% accuracy, they're able to actually detect it. They wouldn't release it into the market. In fact, I love this. You said back in episode 28 that it's all about the Benjamins. Do you remember what you meant there?
Yeah, because if they released the tool, then people would stop using it, particularly
Students.
students would
Yeah.
stop using it if it was easily detectable and they would just go somewhere else. And if they go somewhere else, then OpenAI is going to lose their fan base and their clients. So they didn't do it.
Yeah, so nothing like a law to change your practice, right? So interesting because we talked a little bit about the XAI notification and how one single law from the state of Minnesota, we'll see how this really plays out in the next couple of weeks, may really fundamentally change a practice that folks have thought was overdue. I would say that a lot of people feel like watermarking inside the text outputs of these large language models is overdue. But Anthropic is now complying. So we'll get to the story here, which is copy paste no more. Anthropic puts invisible watermarks on Claude text under EU rules. And it's interesting because the copy and paste thing is that like it survives people messing with it. So you can copy it, you can paste it, you can edit it, and you can refine it. That's part of what people are upset about because like, well, what if I went back and forth with it? It still has the, digital signature of it. It will look like I use. I mean, what do you want to do? I mean, at some point, there's some value in us being able to attribute what is AI and what is not AI. A la the LinkedIn slot button or the Substack tool that's using Pangram to do the same thing. But yeah, really interesting development. Now, because it's an EU law and Anthropic has complied, we're in the same situation where all of a sudden people might stop using the Anthropic model because of the watermarking. But it would seem like Grok, OpenAI, Gemini, like they all should be compelled to follow the same law and have a common standard. That might open up all sorts of opportunity for open source models and private models that don't do this stuff, which, could have a negative unintended consequence, but interesting stuff. You're going to stop using Claude?
I am not going to stop using Claude. I love it. And actually, Charlie Hughes will tell us that that is her favorite tool. But I think, it is all over LinkedIn, people on all sides, and like definitely this thought of, and which I hadn't initially thought of, but like if I put something in to be proofread and then I copy and paste it back out because it made some changes, like then it's going to look like I wrote it with AI because it's not going to tell you it's not really going to give you the details of like, only 3 changes were made from what the author initially input versus me saying, write me an email about XYZ, and then I copy and paste that. And like, I also, as a, maybe I'm a Luddite, but I don't know how I would know if it is like how I would see that watermark. When I think of a watermark, I think of like seeing photos online that have like something clearly across them or like a document that clearly says draft underneath it. So I don't even know. And I would guess most teachers don't know how to find the watermark.
No, so as a quote unquote layperson, right, you can't. What they have to release is the content detector that goes along with the watermark. So step one is the signal, step two is the detector. And that's the thing that OpenAI had all the way back in 2022, right, but never released into the market. But I think they're talking about releasing this next. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting. But we covered a story a long time ago. I think it was after this, but the Copyright Office is under the Trump administration established that if you can show that there's enough human footprint in the back and forth with the language model that something uniquely you came out, something uniquely Liz, like your Liz fingerprints were enough on there, that it would be copyrightable, right? As something that had your authorship. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it seems like the tech is probably there to figure out, all right, was this a one shot where the language model did all the lifting, or did Dr. Rade really pour her heart and soul and all her cognition into the back and forth with Claude? So we will follow this. This is a super interesting development, has a lot of bearing on what we do in schools. Something else that has a lot of bearing on what we do in schools is policy. And we have a listener that we have been really pretty close with over the last several years. I've got to meet with him several times on Zoom. This is one of the most delightful things about doing this podcast. I was just out in New Jersey working with a whole bunch of schools in an independent school conference. And Liz, I know you get this too. It's just so nice having folk come up and share, and it's super grateful that it's been helpful to them in their own journey in whatever role they're in. So this is Sid Gunasakaran, and we're such good friends that he's going to send me a text message and say, Matt, you kind of blew it on my last name, but we'll see. Anyhow, Sid has been working on this really cool tool. And actually, he just started doing a newsletter in higher education, which I'm just signed up for. We'll put the link to the show notes in that as well. It's really good. So Sid's been kind of like vibe coding and AI assisted coding this app on policy. And he's really doing it for higher ed staff because his argument is that he wants higher ed staff to understand who the kids are that are sitting in front of them. And he argues, like, what is the policy that's been in front of them for the last 3 years in many cases, so that they can have a sense of the delta between what they're doing, if anything, at the university level and the higher ed level and where the kids are coming from, right? So tell us a little bit about this.
It analyzes how K-12 artificial intelligence governance shapes incoming university students, because higher education institutes typically delegate AI policy decisions to individual professors and their own syllabi and courses. But K-12 state education agencies have established standardized permission scales, mandatory disclosure rules, systemic guidelines, and those are what kids in public school systems are living under. So there's this policy mismatch as incoming college students that are accustomed to these very structured, like this is a school-wide rule, this may be even a statewide rule around AI use in that K-12 framework. And then they get to higher ed where it's like department by department or teacher to teacher. So that could be a real change for them. And I think it'll be fascinating at some of these big universities where kids are coming together from, our small universities, where kids are coming together from different states, even neighboring states like that have different policies or different, outlooks on AI and privacy and, states. I think it's just going to be interesting to see kids coming from schools that had lockdown yonder pouches versus just put it in the front of the room versus, all the different ways we're handling screens. So it's going to be so cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So I think also for K-12 people, I mean, this is a place where if you want to go just like shopping around the states and compare one state's policy to another, Sid's got them all in there. So I just popped in Connecticut to see what we have. It says we have guidance, which is accurate. We don't have a mandate. It also talks about, like, you and I worked on this a lot ourselves. It says in 2024, the state law ordered a pilot program. And actually, our Senate Bill 5 now has required computer science and AI literacy together, but that's from the legislature, not the State Department of Education. So yeah, super, super interesting. Also, you'll notice if you're kind of hunting around the website at the very bottom, there are resources. And there's some podcasts listed on that page. And Chat EDU, the AI Matt Mervis, Liz Raddick. Weekly. Cool. Thanks, Sid. Really appreciate it. We're going to put the link to this tool and also to Sid's newsletter into the show notes. All right, Liz. So those were all nice things. I mean, I guess the watermarking thing depends on your perspective. To me, those are all nice things. But apparently, we can't just have nice things. So a while back, we covered a business school professor from NYU, and he had noticed that his students' papers were getting excellent scores, but when he asked them questions in class, they seemed to know nothing. And he used his enormous power of deductive reasoning to figure out that everybody was using ChatGPT. So he built an AI oral exam tool it was tied to the kids' capstone project. So cool. So they would upload the capstone project, and then on 11 labs, this thing would like do an oral examination to make sure he did it. And all of a sudden, the kids had lots to talk about in class. Brilliant move, right? But of course, someone has figured out how to take a really nice, durable assessment and hack it. So tell us about, we've seen this. This is Cluey, which originally got a kid kicked out of, I can't remember if it was NYU or Columbia, the founder. And then I remember there was some nefarious things about his financing around. I mean, he's an interesting young guy. But this particular story is actually from Susan Ray. She put up a YouTube video. So tell us about this.
Yeah, I watched this yesterday as well. So the title is When AI is in the Room, but You Can't See It, Invisible AI Assistants. So Susan Ray demonstrated Cluey Undetectable AI, which is an application advertised on TikTok that runs in the background during live virtual calls without being visible to screen sharers. So the example she gave wasn't an exam, it was a mock interview. And so the software provided like live answer prompts on screen, which obviously raised concerns for educators doing virtual tests or oral assessments. Huge for so many interviews. The first interview is done by screen. And I watched it, and it even if we had shared our screens, you wouldn't see this little box that pops up. And it
Right.
is listening to what the interviewer said. And it wrote this like paragraph of what her experience was. And she read it just beautifully, threw in a few
Right.
ers, like, and you're just like, that sounded so natural. And meanwhile, and all she needed was like to delay by 2 seconds and just say, that's a great question. Let me think about that. And it was enough time for the AI to generate the response for her to read back. And I mean, yeah, we just can't have nice things.
We just can't have nice things. I guess we'll have to do our oral exams inside a locked browser, inside a classroom, or
But it
something like
goes
that.
through the locked browser. They were saying that
Oh, yeah.
plenty of kids can get around the locked browser. That locked browser thing, and I saw that on TikTok everywhere or on YouTube, and like people are like, that locked browser is a joke. Like it's locked, but I think kids with a little bit of savvy are able to break the lock. So
You know where you could do a great oral exam that would not be impacted or disintermediated by Cluey? In Central Park of New York City during the summer of Lud.
yes, you could. I was thinking on the porch at Madamic Fiber Arts Camp, two people sitting in a rocking chair while knitting.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it ought to go. All right, Liz, let's go from two people knitting to solving some significant health issues and using AI in really, really instructive ways with Charlie Hughes 3.0. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and then get to that interview. If you are enjoying Chat EDU, please share it with a friend on YouTube or Spotify. If you are not currently following, please follow and certainly like, review, rate, all the good things. We would be incredibly appreciative.
Hey there, I'm Cameron Adia, the executive producer of Chat EDU. If you're a regular listener, you know that Matt and Liz talk a lot about helping students build critical thinking skills in the generative AI age. A related challenge is helping students navigate social media in a way that promotes a balanced life online and offline. That's where our free program, The Social Balance, comes in. Developed by Skills 21, it's designed to build social media literacy and give students the tools to think critically about the role social media plays in their lives. If you'd like to learn more, visit skills21.org/social. And if you want to chat in real time about it, email me at chatedu@edadvance.org. I wrote the curriculum and support schools in their implementation of the social balance.
All right. I am so excited for our interview today. I get to interview Charlie Hughes again. This is year number 3. We first met Charlie when she was just finishing from Woodland High School in Connecticut and off to her first year at UConn. She is now headed into her junior year at UConn. So we are super excited to catch up, hear what's been going on in your world. And besides Jonathan Costa, I think you are our only 3-time guest.
It is an honor. I'm super excited to get to talk to you as well.
All right. Sorry, Matt can't be here, but I get all of it to myself.
Yeah, his loss.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Charlie, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what went on sophomore year? What classes did you take? Where's AI in your world there? And just catch us up.
Yeah, no, totally. So, sophomore year has definitely been a bit of a whirlwind. I think the last time we talked, I was super heavy in the computer science world still. But now I've definitely made the transition more into medicine, like medical sciences, and potentially being a doctor. So that's been a really exciting kind of transition for me. But it's also meant that I've gotten to work with AI in a lot more different contexts that I wasn't necessarily embracing before, especially with like the biomedical research and things like that. And even just like understanding how it applies to some different classes that I was taking instead of just the computer science ones. So it's been really exciting. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about it.
Awesome. So what is your major now?
I'm still studying computer science. I was never really feeling compelled to just get rid of the computer science entirely, but now I'm also studying molecular cell bio.
All right. So is it a double major?
Yeah, it is.
All right. And so are the hopes to do the MCATs and go to medical school, or still like feeling things out?
Yeah, no, I think that's what I'm looking at so far. did an internship at Medtronic last summer doing software engineering, and through that I kind of realized that maybe I'm not as nerdy about computer science as some of the other computer science nerds who are doing really cool things, but I really like working with people. I really like helping people. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hopefully pursue medicine.
All right. And so are you done with most of your core classes and now get to do like the real fun stuff?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely moving up into some of the more advanced classes, which is a super crazy feeling. I can't believe how the time has flown.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool to just understand like how AI works in these different contexts, obviously, and also just get a glimpse into like the world of higher education as a whole.
That's so exciting. And it goes so fast, right? Like, can you believe you're halfway through college already?
Oh, don't remind me.
And as we were walking in this morning, you said you're going to be an RA this year. So just fill up that plate a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the RA gig should be pretty fun. It should be interesting. And I'm just happy to get a single.
Nice. Yeah. There's always some ulterior motives for becoming an RA too, and bonuses.
Nobody tell my boss.
So first, I guess let's start with AI in general in your classes. Like, are you seeing, what are you seeing? Because we're hearing both sides. We're hearing all sides. Like, kids are cheating so much in college. We're also hearing kids hate the AI and are really like pushing against it and want to focus on the environment and are going back to like the age of Ludd and like Ludditism. And then we hear like kids are using it to do all these really great things. And I think you probably see all three. So tell us a little bit
totally
about what you see.
So I'll kind of work through in the order that you worked through. Okay. So on the kids cheating, yes, kids definitely cheat in college. Like they've always cheated in college on a lot of things. And honestly, I too have had my fair share of frustrations with this issue. In particular, there was one class that I took this past semester. It was cell bio. And in that class, it's, I'm sure you're familiar with the flipped format.
Okay, yeah. So like lots of hands-on in class and you're supposed to do a lot of like reading and learning.
Right, yeah. So in this particular class, lectures were optional. You had to watch the lectures all online before class. And then there was a problem set. And if you had questions on the problem set, then you went into class and asked your questions on the problem set. And that was a little bit of a frustrating format for me because we then took our exams and they were online in Lockdown browser, but we all know that there are many, many creative ways that people have come up with to circumvent the Lockdown browser. At first, I was really just frustrated with this because I felt that the professor knew and that he didn't care and that it was like a pretty blatant, it was pretty blatant ignorance towards this issue. But when I found that when I had a conversation with him and I emailed him and I said like, hey, I'm worried about this, he was actually really receptive to my concerns. And so that gave me a lot of hope for the fact that I feel like professors, even those who are like maybe very trusting of students or, are like kind of stuck in a time before AI, are really working hard to make some adjustments to their teaching. Some other examples of that is like, I think I probably talked about this the last time I was on too, but I love, love, love when professors give a list of acceptable prompts for, homework and other assignments. I think that's so cool. I'm a big fan of that. And I've had some more professors do that.
So they've told you like, here's a way to use AI for this assignment,
right?
And like given you some prompts that
you get a big homework assignment and they'll give you a list of prompts that's like, describe this concept to me, describe that concept to me, that I found to be really cool and helpful. And I definitely think that a big part of it is like the acknowledgement that students might use generative AI that helps to avoid like some of the more illicit activities while not barring them from using it entirely.
I love that idea.
Yeah. So that was one really cool example. And I've even gotten to do like projects with AI. Like we had labs where we had to insert or use a given prompt on, Claude or GPT or our AI, our chatbot of choice. Okay. And we then had to like take screenshots of our responses. We had to answer the questions that it had for us. So the idea is that it's like an activity to teach us how we could use it to study for tests and things like that too. which I find super cool.
Yeah, I love that you are having a lot of experiences where professors are embracing it and like teaching you and showing you what to do. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've also been really happy with the amount of platforms that are taking advantage of like chatbots just within their, homework assignments, things like that, where I can ask questions about an assignment in real time and get an answer, even if it's like 11 p.m. and I really want to go to bed, and it's easier than emailing my TA and waiting for a response.
Right.
So I really appreciate that. And I also think that it's kind of a testament to how AI can be helpful with like with the social emotional component as well. I know that the fact that AI can kind of be an echo chamber is a big concern when it comes to like, are kids going to keep making friends, and are they going to keep, making the social emotional connections that are necessary to like grow into mature adults. But in the context of learning, I've found that it's really helped me to have a responsive agent that gives me positive reinforcement on my learning and tells me like, this question isn't stupid, and just explains it to me without me worrying about like, is my TA going to think that I'm so dumb for asking this question, or is my professor, or is my friend?
Yeah, that's really, we've heard that from the beginning, that like it's because the AI doesn't judge you, you're like more able to ask even those questions that you think are stupid, or like, I know I should know this, but I'm going to ask anyway. But you don't want to like raise your hand in front of the professor, in front of the whole class. Are you still, are study groups still happening on campus? Like, do you still study with friends, or is there like a lot of this isolation because you can just study with a chatbot?
No, I totally think that I still study with friends. And part of that is because a chatbot isn't inherently motivating. Like having, Claude tell me like, you can work on these practice problems, and is not the same as my friend sitting me down and being like, okay, we're not getting lunch until we finish this whole problem set or something like that. So I definitely find that people still study around campus with friends. I also think that it's valuable that your friends are reaching towards the same end goal as you. Like if you're studying for a class, all of us want to bag our A, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think that component is definitely helpful.
That's great. That's really cool. Oh, I love college.
Me too.
I would like to be in my early 20s again. So I guess let's talk a little bit about, you said you've been using AI in really cool ways in your new, like, not new, but like in your path on the medical field or the medical direction. So tell us a little bit about like how you've been using AI there.
Yeah, totally. So I actually have 2 projects going on right now that have fairly similar applications of AI that I think are really cool. So I've been using a new pre-trained model from Meta, and I'm working on some research it's basically a little tube, and you can perform an HPV test in that tube using a CRISPR assay. And at the end, it'll turn a certain color. It'll turn red if it's a positive test, and it'll turn clear if it's a negative test. And it turns like shades of red in between, based on the varying concentrations of HPV in that test sample. And I have been working on an algorithm to return to the user the concentration of HPV in that sample, and whether it's positive or negative, to use in like low resource settings as part of an app if they don't have access to advanced lab equipment.
And what are you testing? Like saliva or blood, or what are you?
Yeah, probably saliva. That's the typical sample.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been a really cool project that I've been working on, having a lot of fun with.
Just in your spare time, solving HPV diagnoses for under-resourced areas. That's what I was doing when I was a teen. That's amazing. So what are you working on that in the context of a class, outside of class, with people? Tell us more about like, how'd you even come to this problem? Yeah, so that research is what I've been working on primarily over the summer, but I'm going to be continuing with the lab. It's a research lab at UConn Health, and yeah, it's been really fun. I came to that problem because I'm really passionate about women's health in particular, and like HPV is a big women's health issue. I think it's my craziest fact that I know is that the HPV vaccine pretty much eliminated cervical cancer. It came so close to eradicating cervical cancer, and I just think that that's amazing that like a vaccine can have that power.
but obviously it's still a concern in under-resourced settings. So I'm really interested in like learning how we can empower those settings using the tools that we have.
Right. So if you are diagnosed with HPV, is it curable? It's not curable, but it's treatable?
Yeah, so the idea is that if you're diagnosed with HPV, you can go under like early detection. Yeah, you can. The early detection is easier. You can be monitored more closely.
All right. And now I'm remembering you were really interested in, did your grandmother have ovarian cancer?
Yeah, my grandmother did have ovarian cancer. And my interest from that and learning more about women's health, women's reproductive cancers was, yeah, it just expanded from that point.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're still doing that. So, so are you working on this with other people, or is this mostly your own research? How's it going?
Yeah, so this is primarily my own research. I'm working in a lab where the assay component was already established. So my job is really coming up with a way to assign the tests as positive or negative and create an app around that. So that's what I've been working on.
So when you're using AI, like, have you run into situations where the AI has given you something like totally wrong or useless? And like, what do you do when that happens?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that happens all the time in just iterating code. Because I've really found a lot of applications in using AI for faster code production, since that's kind of what the main thing that I'm doing in my day-to-day is. And honestly, when it's wrong, I usually iterate from there, just using my brain. I've found that there's really no substitute for like reading up on the material and just like learning what you're talking about. So of course we all know that there's still that grind where you have to just like get your bearings in a space, no matter what that space might be. But AI is even helpful for that step, like breaking down key concepts, helping me figure out the right questions to ask. I think as long as you're using it to supplement your brain and teaching yourself the things that you should be looking for, and you could even use AI to teach you the things that you should be looking for, right, then typically you can figure it out.
And how has AI helped you like really level up with this? So like, what are you able to do that you wouldn't have been able to do without AI? Is it making it faster, better? Like,
I think that AI helps debias some of my like human fallacies that I have. So in research, especially in biomedical research, I've found that a lot of people aren't necessarily AI literate yet. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, they're reading papers where they're like, oh, AI this, ML that. And it's definitely a buzzword. They want it in their papers too. They want someone who can integrate these ML solutions for them. And I found that it's not really necessary. Like when I entered my lab, I was fully like, okay, I'm ready to develop a CNN and I'm going to use OpenCV and I'm going to detect all these different things. And it's just not really called for sometimes. Like it's helped me realize that there are simpler solutions. Okay. And sometimes when you have all the different solutions laid out for you, like AI is able to do so easily, it gives me an easier starting point to read and to understand what I'm talking about that isn't just like the buzzwords that are circling around that I want to be taking advantage of too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Is it helping make your work more efficient, or are you able to go faster?
Oh yeah, I would totally say so. I think back to like all of my early CS classes when I was like figuring out Python syntax and things like that, like literally just how to write code. And that experience was really valuable for like figuring out how to make code efficient and like what makes a program a good program and things like that. But now just like not needing to always think through every single logical flow that I want to write super cleanly, and having an agent that can help me write clean code and write logical code without me needing to necessarily do all those steps by hand has been super helpful. And just for the rapid prototyping and rapid iteration, It's also incredible. Like I'm able to test, 5 different ideas instead of 3. And like even just that in the same amount of time makes a really big difference when I'm trying to come up with the most rigorous method, the most scientifically accurate method, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Was there ever a moment in either project where you've been like, forget it, I just want to quit?
There's always going to be that moment. I think I'm kind of a perfectionist, if you couldn't tell by my personality.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like driven by this insatiable need to show other people and show myself that I can get things done and like have them be good. Even AI is like fallible.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And even more fallible than your brain. So I think, sometimes you run out of usage tokens and you have no idea where to go next. And it's like, okay, time to fire up Google. And that's just part of it. And I think it's really valuable that you can use these tools as like an extension of your brain, but also to teach yourself. So that's really helped me like keep going, knowing that I'm still empowered to do things on my own, even when it's like not looking too good and you had a really long day and you're frustrated and you want to quit.
Yeah, that's good advice to anybody. How are you being supported by like the adults around you? Are professors, like, do professors know what you're doing? Do the people in the lab know what you're doing? And how are they helping or encouraging you? Or are there people that are like, you're like a kid, you don't know what you're doing?
Honestly, when I first started in my lab, I was really surprised because I still viewed using AI for research as like this kind of taboo thing. Like I kind of treated it as like my little secret, and I forgot that, all of the adults in the room, all the PhDs are well aware of what's going on with everyone, and everyone is using it. So my first lab meeting, I was speaking to my professor about the work that I was doing and my plans, and he was like, listen, Charlie, you want chat, you want Claude, anything, I'll pay for your subscription, the lab will pay for it, we can help you, just help get the work done. So I found that people are really receptive towards AIU specifically, and just like supporting how I can get my work done the best that I can. And yeah, I mean, I think that there are definitely a ton of resources. I love UConn because the Office of Undergraduate Research does have so many like people to talk to and places to go to get support in research as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool experience.
That's great. What are your hopes with either one of these projects? Like, is FDA approval on your radar and like going to market? Like, what's your hope?
For Chroma Shield, that's the wearable patch. I'm really excited about that project because it does also pertain to women's health. We're looking at using that in patients with breast cancer as an equitable means of diagnosing radiation dermatitis, which is currently like very visual scan, especially on darker skin tones. It doesn't show up very well. And so it's helping to level the playing field with patients a little bit. Also in low-income communities, it's a more affordable tool, things like that. So I'm super excited about that project. And for that, we're currently working on our utility patent. So that's really exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And yeah, down the road, we probably are going to be looking at FDA approval, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, we've been making a lot of progress on that front, and we're pretty excited to see where else it goes.
Yeah. And you're working on that with some friends, right?
I am, yeah.
That's so cool. And again, that's like not part of a class. That's just like spare time, gonna solve breast cancer for underrepresented women. Yeah. I mean, I just thought that it was a really cool idea when my friends brought it to me, and I felt like I had to be involved. Yeah, that's awesome. And so tell me a little bit more about radiation dermatitis. So that happens when...
Yeah, so that happens when people are undergoing radiation therapy for their cancer. So there's going to be a very specific spot where the doctors are targeting cancer cells, and they blast you with this radiation to try and kill the last of those cells after you have like a lumpectomy or removing a tumor or something like that. But unfortunately, that does cause a lot of skin irritation over time. So you can get redness, blistering, burning, and especially if you think about where a breast cancer patient might be getting this treatment, kind of like in their armpit region, on their chest, it can be super painful.
Yeah.
As it gets to later stages, it's rather debilitating. And like I said, there's only this visual inspection, and they also will do like a topical steroid, which can also have side effects for treatment. So we're really hoping to find a better way.
And so your solution detects it before it's a visual, before like you can see it.
Yeah, it's a wearable patch, and it is the patch itself is also healing. It uses like a healing adhesive material to help soothe your skin in that area, and it changes color. So the idea is that we have an app associated with the patch that tracks your temperature through like the color change if you snap a picture of the patch a couple times a day. And if it notices this characteristic increase that indicates radiation dermatitis in that like local area, it'll alert you, it'll alert your doctor, and you can hopefully intervene sooner before it gets too severe.
All right. So, Charlie, what would happen if AI disappeared tomorrow? Like, how would that impact either of your projects? Like, what could you still do? And what would really be held back if we were like, AI is gone?
Well, it would certainly be slower. That's like such a far-reaching question because I don't know, at least for me, it's easy for me to think about AI and think about just like, the like ChatGPT or your chatbots and large language models. But really it's like, what would happen if my search recommended was all messed up? What would happen if my TikTok algorithm wouldn't work anymore?
All the machine learning that we don't even think about.
Yeah, that we don't even think about. But I guess narrowing in on like the generative AI, like the stuff that we use day to day, it would certainly take me a lot longer to write emails. But yeah, I think the iterating process would be longer, and that would be my main concern. My projects do use some machine learning. So the primary machine learning that I use is for like segmentation and detection. I actually found a couple different ways to detect color using it's called color spaces. So it's like basically mathematical ways to represent color that don't necessarily rely on like any machine learning for predictive algorithms. Instead, it just eliminates some of the variance that you see just by nature of photos taken in different lighting and different conditions, and manipulates that so that I can make an interpretation based on like thresholding instead. So for me, that's actually been really cool to learn about too, because I found that, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, you don't necessarily need to use a really complicated solution. Right. Like I said, in my work, I was really, really, really tempted to come up with this like crazy predictive model. And I just didn't think it was necessary. And I love that too, because it's so much more interpretable. I'm really concerned about interpretability, especially in like a biomedical context where we're trying to diagnose people. That's a big job for you to, just say like, let's feed it into the black box and see what comes out.
Yeah.
And I think that long-term people are really looking for that interpretability, especially in a space and in a world that's like really saturated with algorithms that scare people.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's so great. Let's go back to college a little bit.
Let's do it.
So, Notebook LM, now Gemini Notebook is its new name, is a tool that we often talk about college students using. Is that something that you use a lot? And then what in the studio side of it? Like, are you making podcasts? Are you making mind maps? How are you using Notebook? Are your friends and colleagues using it? And how? Like, what do you guys find the most useful?
I'm definitely primarily using chatbot functions, but a lot of people do use Notebook LM for a lot of different things. And I think that's one of the really cool things that I found about being in college in general, that tools like Notebook LM and Notebook LM itself really like supply just the creativity to do so many different things. The generic mantra of like everyone going into college hears is like, make the most of it, do all these different things, figure out what you like. And you're always like, yeah. But it's so true. Like if you want to make a podcast, you could totally make a podcast. And I've had to for classes, for things like that. So yeah, there are a lot of different things that we do. But I think it's really cool.
Yeah. What is your go-to model? What do you use the most?
I use Claude the most because I found that Claude is the best with code.
We live a lot in Gemini just because that's what a lot of high schools are using, or schools are using because of the FERPA compliance. So we spend a lot of time over in Gemini. And have you made any of your own like gems or custom GPTs that you go back to over and over?
I'm actually working on a fun project with my dad right now.
Okay.
We're building a smart mirror for our fridge. And he found this open source project just like on GitHub that's creating like a Tom Riddle diary.
Oh my gosh.
Out of a pre-trained transformer model. So I've been working on that a little bit with my dad, and that's been really fun to just come up with like a little toy. It doesn't have to all be, super serious or anything like that, but that's been cool.
And so for listeners who don't know who Tom Riddle is, that is all Harry Potter.
Yeah, in Harry Potter, in the second book and movie, there was a diary that Harry found that had like a spirit trapped inside it, and you could write in the diary and it would write back to you. So yeah, that's been a fun little project.
That's so fun. I love that like you and your dad can do it together.
Yeah, my dad is the OG tech nerd.
All right. I love it. So now we were talking before, when we first started talking, I guess your brother had just finished 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And now he is going off into or maybe he had just finished 6th grade.
6th grade, yeah.
So now he's going off to high school.
He is, yes.
So do you coach him on any AI stuff? What does he think about it? Or
I always kind of like helped him with homework and stuff like that. But just this past spring, he had a big Algebra 1 final that he was really worried about. And him and all of his friends got together and I worked with them on that. And if there were questions that we couldn't figure out or concepts that we didn't understand, the first line of defense was always like, explain this concept to me in Claude or in whatever chatbot they preferred. So we had a really long conversation about that, actually, and about just proper usage in general. I think 8th grade boys are perhaps not the most honest demographic with their work. And so I can kind of tell when I was around that some of them were tempted to get it done a little faster and not be so honest in the work that they were doing. But I think that they also all understand the value of like needing to really understand these base topics well, these foundational topics. And I spent a lot of time explaining to my brother how even though right now you might not feel like you need to understand how to factor a quadratic, you're probably going to want to, later on. And, it doesn't get any easier to learn these topics when you're building on them and building on with more advanced stuff. So, I think that they understand it in general. It's just kind of the getting them to actually apply what they know about how they should be using it. That's tricky.
Yeah, definitely. And we also hear about a lot of people in general that are very anti-AI because of what we hear most is the concerns about the environment. And so do you hear that a lot on campus or among your peers? And what do you say about that? And what are you kind of seeing as far as, are there people that are just like not going to use it? Artists as well, not into it?
I definitely understand the concerns about the environment, and I share those concerns too. Yep. My hope is definitely that we kind of make the transition to like cleaner energy as a whole. I don't think that there's any one fix in this problem. And I also think that honestly, like, it's important to not absolve yourself from individual blame. And I think that's something that I need to remember a little bit more too. But I do think there's an extent to which, like, if we have our gas companies continuing to drill for oil and continuing to like be greedy and, use exclusively fossil fuels and things like that, it gets harder to tip the needle on just an individual scale. But I do understand environmental concerns too, and I applaud people who are that strong in their convictions.
Yes.
But yeah, I also know people who don't support using AI for other reasons, like you mentioned, like artists. I know one person, and I was really kind of surprised when I talked to her, but she is studying political science, law, and she was like, Charlie, all of my classes are writing. If I started to use AI, then I would have nothing to do at all.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I was like, can't really argue that one.
Yeah.
But I do think that AI can be really useful in like a writing and drafting stage. And for me, the most important part of writing is reading. Yeah. I found that, reading papers, say, if I'm trying to write in a scientific way, teaches me how to write scientific works. And reading literature helps me figure out how to write stories better. And reading poetry helps me figure out how to write poetry better. And at the end of the day, like, we're looking at a machine that can consume so much of that information way faster than we can. But I also think that if we have our own flair from doing that reading, then it's not so easily replaced. Just like how artists say, like, my art, because it's art made by a human, can't be so easily replaced. So I kind of see those as one and the same.
It's true. I mean, I think often my comeback is like, well, there's worse things that are happening in the environment. So like if you're going to criticize AI, then stop buying fast fashion or stop streaming Netflix, or like there's all these other things, which is not a great argument, right? Like two wrongs don't make a right, or, you know, like.
Well, but it is true. Like, just because there are a lot of things that we can be pointing fingers at. And I think that while these other things have developed really slowly over time, AI is so like new and it's so jarring and scary for a lot of people that it's a lot easier to be like, this is the reason why the ice caps are melting. It's this. When like,
there's lots of other things that are contributing to environmental.
Right.
And I also try to think of like, you know, fast fashion is problematic. Lots of waste, lots of water, lots of energy. And like, I'm not sure. It's a lot harder to identify the good on that side. Where with AI, I'm like, lots of lots of energy, lots of water use, but it's usually not potable water. It's being reused. It's clean energy. Like, and it's going to help us detect cancer early. It's going to help us with, you know, radiation dermatitis.
Yeah,
or
totally.
like there's all these other like benefits that are going to come out of it that I can't tap on in the same way for Sheen.
And honestly, there are also a lot of better criticisms of AI. Like, don't get me wrong. There are, I sit here like advocating for people to use AI well, but I acknowledge that there are many, many, many drawbacks.
Oh, absolutely.
And while the environment is a big one, and I think that a lot of people, you know, can see a TikTok of like a penguin looking really sad and the ice caps melting, and it's like, oh no, I'm so, you know, it's AI that's causing this, and forest fires and whatever environmental hazards. But like, what about security? What about the flock cameras? What about
I'm much more concerned about nudification and deep fakes of children
absolutely.
than I am, you know, not that to say I'm not concerned about the environment, but those are the deep fakes and the nudification are like, that hits an individual, and it's something that is so tangible and so impactful and so terrible. So, you know, Matt and I always give some pros and cons of AI. Like every story we cover is not like, yay, AI. There are plenty of things that we are cautious about, afraid about, you know, so.
I mean, we also like live in a very political society, and I think like the best way to work around these concerns, whether it be the environment or like these other concerns, is regulation and pushing the people that you vote for to regulate, because like it is at the large scale that a lot of these changes are going to happen, whether it be like you want more clean energy, you want oil companies out, or you want to protect our kids from some of the hazards of AI. And I think that just saying like, well, I'm not going to use it, and like putting your foot down is kind of short-sighted, because people are going to use it anyway. Like, it's great that you're doing that. And like I said, I applaud individuals who are willing to like take action on their convictions in that way. But I don't necessarily think that it's the best way to enact change.
Well, that got political and deep, but I like it. Let's start wrapping up. And so I guess we have lots of teachers and educators that listen to this podcast. So as a college student, what is the one piece of advice you'd give to a teacher who wants to expose their students to AI in the ways that you are doing it, using it to solve a real world problem? So like, what would your advice be for a teacher that's like, how do I create the next Charlie?
I think what really empowered me was like learning about research in general. I'm really interested in the fact that you can like sit here and use your brain and generate a new piece of knowledge that nobody's worked on before. I think that that's crazy. It never fails to amaze me. And so I wish that in high school I had like research projects and things like that exposed me to more of that content. I know one of my good friends had this like really transformational assignment. It was a year-long project when he was in high school. He was a sophomore, and he ended up writing like 100-page dissertation for his history class about a topic of his choosing, like anything that interests you. You just have to learn about it. You have to show your sources, do all the things. And I think that walking students through that process and showing them like how you can use AI for research and how you can use AI to help you draft and help you come up with some ideas and how you could use it to iterate is way more valuable than just like giving them a problem set full of math problems.
Right.
And I think that can work for like any topic. There's new knowledge being discovered everywhere. So I think that is like what really would have gotten me going earlier.
Yeah. I think when you talk about that, it's the research is not just the gathering of the information, it's how you apply that, right? So like thinking of research less as reporting on what you learned, but then how do you take what you learned and go somewhere with it? And I think because we can do deep research on AI about a topic, like you can learn a lot about it. And that's not the skill anymore. The skill is, okay, now you have all of this information. So what? Like, how are you bringing new light to it? If it's a history topic, how are you advancing the science? If now you know all these things, where's the problem within what we already know, right? I feel like when I did research or wrote a paper in high school and college, like the paper was the end, and it was the skill was gathering all of the sources and collating that into like essentially a summary, a long summary of like all the things I learned about women in the French Revolution, right? All the different pieces of how women impacted the French Revolution. But now, because I could do a deep research on that and in 15 minutes have the background information, research really is both research and development, right? Like it's not just the R, it's the R and D. Like what are you doing with what you find out, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's a great point. And I also think that's really helpful in that when you're working on like this development portion, it gives you a sense of ownership over the material that you really don't have when you're just like reading some random author's textbook and writing summaries on every chapter. I think for me, that's like the most exciting part. That's the part that really gets me excited about learning. Just the fact that like, again, this is something new that I came up with that I'm working on. And that's just super cool. Like so cool. Everybody likes to have that like super gratifying feeling of like, I did this, I worked on this.
Right. Even, my dissertation is something I'm very proud of. Like I wrote this, right? Yeah. Like I just found the copy of my dissertation that I initially turned in, which is printed all on one side of the paper. So it looks like super thick
stack
versus like my bound copy that's printed on both sides, which also looks impressive. But like when I showed my daughter, like, this is what I wrote. And she was like, why would you do that? And I was like, don't you think it's cool? And she's like, that you wrote all those words? Like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, we were just talking about teenagers being teenagers.
Yeah, she's definitely a teenager. But, it is whenever you make something, whether it's a craft or solving radiation dermatitis or, cervical cancer or HPV, like, or it's a basket that I've made or a hand knit sweater, like when you make it and it's only because you did it, like it's a beautiful thing.
It really is. I think there's so much value in doing things that challenge you every day. And that's something that I've realized more throughout college too. Like it's not gonna, and that's why I do a lot of things and maybe take on too much sometimes and should cut back more, because I find the most gratification in doing hard things. And that's just the way brains work.
Yep, it is. I mean, doing hard things makes you grow and it's fun. All right, Charlie. So as we wrap up, are you still driving a car that is stick?
I am.
I love it. What are you doing that is non-academic and fun for you?
I sing in UConn's choir.
Oh, I love that for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just started doing that this past year. It's really fun.
Oh, that's so great. What is the best fiction book you've read in the last, year?
Oh, fiction book. I really liked Fourth Wing.
Oh, okay. You're one of those.
Oh. Yeah, I'm really into the fantasy books.
Yeah, the romantasy.
Oh, you're making me blush.
All right. Do you have another favorite book that you've read this year that is not fiction?
I'm currently working through, it's called Quantum Supremacy.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, I'm working on it right now, but it's really good. I have been known in days of old to be really scared of quantum computing.
Okay.
But I'm getting warmed up to the idea the more I learn about it.
Okay. So we've got some work to do in quantum that we're doing with Southern. So maybe we'll bring you in on that.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more.
Did you know that your fingernail grows 1 nanometer a second?
I did not know that, but
now you know.
I do now. I know. What is it? The size of a modern transistor is the size that your fingernail grows in like 30 minutes or something like that.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
So small.
Actually, don't quote me on that. I'm probably not exactly right, but I'm approximate. You can take in the grandiose of that information.
Yes. All right. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for driving out here to Litchfield. It is always fun to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We can't wait to do next summer. You'll be going into your senior year.
Oh, crazy.
So much fun. And again, we look forward to your conversation every year. It's so interesting. You're doing such cool stuff. Good luck with all of it. Keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Whoa, Liz, what a conversation. That was amazing. Thank you so much for, just being able to chat with Charlie again. And it's a really nice segue to go from like some really heavy, important cognitive work and using AI as a lever to a Bright Bite story each week where AI is making some meaningful contribution to health science, biology, technology. And this is a great kind of complement to the conversation with Charlie Hughes. So what's going on over there on the left coast?
All right. So Stanford researchers fight viruses with AI. And this is from The Chemical Engineer, a magazine regularly read by you, right, Matt?
Every day on my bedside. Yeah.
Yep. So researchers Brian Hai and Samuel King from Stanford University used the open source generative AI model called EVO2 to design entire synthetic genomes for bacteriophages, which are viruses that infect and kill bacteria. So they utilized PhyX174 phage, my favorite phage of them all, as a design template. But it's just not as good as PhyX175.
I totally agree. 100%. Yeah.
But they used this phage as a design template and then synthesized nearly 300 prospective viral genomes and identified 16 highly effective bacteriophages capable of targeting and killing E. coli. No one wants that.
Not right now. Oh my God. You go to the market right now or you go to the restaurant, you're like, wait, can I eat that? Wait, there's a warning on that one. I can't go to that restaurant.
No lettuce.
Yay.
Jalapenos too are out right now. Oh, it's not good.
It's getting toughy. You know what we need is a pair of glasses we can put on like these and they'll tell us what kind of bacterial infection we're going to get in our gut. How do you like that?
Only if Disney songs are playing in the background.
I love it.
I mean, it's great. The proof of concept demonstrates that AI-designed viral cocktails may be able to overcome bacterial antibiotic resistance, which is so good because we want these bad bacteria to be decimated.
Yeah, so for two people who don't have regular cocktails, I don't think I want a viral cocktail either, but I love it. All right, Liz, let me take these things off. You look dumb with them on too. Please, let's be real. So I'm popping out to Wyoming via Rhode Island, but I'll see you back next week in the studio, which is exciting. Who knows what Cam will have done then? But in the meantime, Liz, it must entirely be time too.
Roll the credits.
Fantastic.
As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. Chat EDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of Chat EDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. Chat EDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. Chat EDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big Chat EDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the executive director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our educator and leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to Chat EDU.